traits. They're what make us unique: height, hair color, even the ability to fight off a cold. With some exceptions, individuals of a species usually have some traits that make them distinct from other members of their species. Without them, things might get a little boring. Imagine if everyone looked exactly like their parents. In nature, common traits are usually decided by the environment. If an organism's traits help it to survive its environment, they get passed on to the next generation. Nature itself selects the best traits. That's why we call it natural selection. For thousands of years, humans have manipulated how organisms reproduce, helping bring about traits like spicier chili peppers and bigger pecan nuts. When we select organisms with traits we want to reproduce, we call this selective breeding. Selective breeding has always been a purposeful but imprecise process. We pick two organisms with traits we like, make them reproduce, and hope for the best. There's always been a bit of randomness to how these traits are passed on. More recently, humans have come to understand how DNA carries instructions for building proteins that ultimately create traits. By reading those instructions, a process we call genetic analysis, we can really know if an organism will likely have specific traits. Selective breeding is better with genetics by being both more precise and faster. We don't have to wait for traits to develop before knowing if the organism will likely have them. For example, it takes a pecan tree about 7 to 10 years to grow before we can see if we even like the nuts it produces. Now, we can look for the right DNA instructions before even planting that seed. What once took generations now takes a fraction of that time in a lab. We can also find traits that aren't so easy to spot, like the ability to fight off disease or hold water. But you can't really see them by just looking at a tree. Looking at the DNA during selective breeding unlocks traits that are already naturally present. It makes selective breeding much more precise. This level of control allows us to develop breeds that can resist disease, use less resources, survive harsh environments, and give us more of the products that we enjoy. It's a technique that humans have used for thousands of years, now made better by new science.